This debate today, it's about who gets to be an American. What opinions do we have to be counted as Americans? This is what this debate is about, Madam Speaker. There is this idea that you are a suspect if you are an immigrant, or if you are from certain parts of the world, or a certain skin tone, or a Muslim. It is no accident that members of the Republican Party accused the first Black president, Barack Obama, of being a secret Muslim. It is no accident.
The battle over Representative Ilhan Omar's removal from the House Foreign Affairs Committee was about far more than reshuffling seats or party power. It became a defining moment about accountability, trust, and what it truly means to represent American values on the world stage. From the opening moments of debate, lawmakers made it clear that this was a test of principle, a question of whether Congress would act when a member's words or actions threaten the nation's credibility abroad. At its heart, this was not merely procedural. It was about image and responsibility, about who gets to speak for America in matters of foreign policy, and whether someone with a record of divisive or controversial statements should hold that position. For many Republicans, the answer was simple and long overdue. Omar's seat, they argued, had been a mistake from the start. Her removal, to them, was not punishment, but correction. The conversation exposed just how critical the Foreign Affairs Committee is to the nation's reputation, a reminder that its members must reflect America's highest ideals, not undermine them before the world.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from the great state of New York, Nicole Malliotakis.
The gentlewoman from New York is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard from my colleagues the reasons why the Representative Omar should be removed from this committee, but I feel like all the reasons have not just yet been stated, which is why I rise to add for the record. We've heard about the comments that were made regarding anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli views, but I rise to add to the record that as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've sat there and heard the representative actually spew anti-American rhetoric as well. I've been in that committee room where the representative equates Israel and the United States to Hamas and the Taliban. Absolutely unacceptable for a member of that committee. I've also heard the representative equate that it is the United States' fault that there is turmoil in Venezuela, that is not because of the oppressive socialist and communism that has spread throughout Central and South America, in Venezuela at the hands of the Maduro and Hugo Chavez regimes. That is unacceptable.
As the debate deepened, Republicans returned to a single point. Every member of Congress swears the same oath to defend the Constitution and to put America's interests first. They claimed that Representative Omar had repeatedly broken faith with that promise through remarks that cast doubt on her loyalty to American principles. They cited comments that appeared to downplay the trauma of 9/11, criticisms of Israel they viewed as extreme, and statements that seemed to shift blame for foreign crises onto the United States itself. To her critics, this wasn't about political disagreement. It was a pattern of behavior that made her unfit to shape U.S. foreign policy. Supporters of removal argued that accountability must apply equally to all members, regardless of party. The goal, they said, wasn't to silence Omar, but protect America's image in global affairs. Representative Nicole Malliotakis of New York delivered one of the most striking speeches of the day. Having served on the same committee, she recalled hearing Omar compare the U.S. and Israel to terrorist groups such as Hamas and the Taliban. Malliotakis called those comparisons unacceptable, arguing that no one who equates America with its enemies should represent abroad. Her remarks framed the issue not as partisan warfare, but as a matter of duty, respect, and integrity. Her message was clear. Americans deserve committee members who defend their country, not demean it.
And as a New York representative, to hear the representative belittle, to try to diminish the worst terrorist attack on United States soil on September 11, 2001, as some people did something, that is unacceptable as well. And I hold the same standard for this side of the aisle that I do the other. Because when another colleague on my side said something about 9/11, I also voted to have her removed from the Education Committee because I thought that was inappropriate. So I'm being consistent here, and I hope my colleagues will do the same to show that this is about consistency and accountability, because we should not have an individual with those views on the committee that is tasked with representing our country and our Congress to foreign nations. I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back.
Georgia seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A.1 of Rule 9, I seek recognition to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows.
Recognized.
Censuring Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Whereas elected members of Congress take an oath to bear true faith and allegiance to the United States without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. Whereas Representative Ilhan Omar took an oath of allegiance to the United States upon becoming a citizen, declaring, I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate.
Malliotakis pressed on, presenting a deeper record of statements she believed disqualified Omar from such an influential post. She reminded the chamber of instances where Omar suggested that the chaos in Venezuela was caused by the United States rather than by the country's own socialist dictatorships. To Malliotakis, this worldview, one that consistently blames America while excusing oppressive regimes, was not only misguided but dangerous. She argued that these repeated comments showed a troubling pattern, a tendency to minimize the crimes of authoritarian leaders while portraying America as the villain. Such rhetoric, she warned, damages U.S. credibility and weakens its moral standing abroad. Her examples painted a broader picture, not of isolated mistakes, but of a worldview that clashed with the values the Foreign Affairs Committee was meant to uphold. In her words, allowing Omar to stay on the committee would have sent a signal that undermining the nation's leadership in the world comes without consequence.
State or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen. Whereas on January 27, 2024, Representative Omar gave remarks at an event in Minneapolis in which she made treasonous statements. Whereas Representative Omar said she has spoken to many Somalians who asked her to intercede for the Somali government by pressuring the United States government into certain actions. Whereas Representative Omar assured the Somalians she spoke to, the U.S. government will only do what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else. They must follow our orders, and that is how we will safeguard the interest of Somalia. Whereas Representative Omar continued, for as long as I am in U.S. Congress, Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters will not be stolen by Ethiopia or others. Sleep in comfort knowing I am here to protect the interest of Somalia from inside the U.S.
The debate reached an emotional peak when Malliotakis revisited Omar's widely condemned 9/11 remark, the moment she referred to the terrorist attacks as, some people did something. For Malliotakis, who represents New York, the wounds of that day remain raw and deeply personal. She spoke of the thousands who perished and the families who still grieve, insisting that no public official should ever minimize that tragedy. To reinforce her point, Malliotakis reminded the chamber that she had also voted to remove a Republican lawmaker who once made an inappropriate comment about 9/11. Her stance, she said, was about consistency and principle, not politics. This detail struck a chord. It showed that her call for accountability extended beyond party loyalty, that respect for American history and suffering must outweigh political convenience. For many watching, that statement cut through the noise. It was a rare moment of moral clarity that reframed the discussion around standards, not sides.
George Washington warned in his farewell address of 1796 to guard against the impostures of pretended patriotism, and further declared citizens by birth or choice of a common country, that country has a right to concentrate your affections. The name of American, which belongs to you in your national capacity, must always exalt the just pride of patriotism more than any appellation derived from local discriminations. Whereas these statements by Representative Omar clearly violate the oath she took as an elected member of Congress to defend and protect the United States Constitution. Whereas Representative Omar has exhibited the treasonous tendencies George Washington warned about, and her actions must be condemned by all members of Congress who adhere to the oath they took upon assuming office.
The intensity rose when lawmakers introduced a formal resolution to censure Representative Omar. The document cited a speech she delivered in Minneapolis, where she allegedly told Somali Americans that the U.S. government will do what we want, a line her critics said sounded like a pledge to advance a foreign nation's interests within the U.S. system. For her opponents, this crossed a threshold from questionable rhetoric into something far more serious, what they described as a breach of her oath of office. The resolution argued that such comments suggested loyalty to another country over the United States, making her unfit to serve on a committee that directly shapes U.S. foreign policy. To those supporting the measure, this was not merely about politics. It was about trust, patriotism, and the obligation to put America first. The introduction of this resolution turned a heated debate into a full-scale confrontation over allegiance, identity, and the standards of national leadership.
And whereas by openly admitting her efforts to advance Somalia's interest using her position as a United States representative, Representative Omar has revealed herself to be a foreign agent acting on behalf of a foreign government. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota be censured. Representative Ilhan Omar forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. Representative Ilhan Omar be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker, and Representative Ilhan Omar be and is hereby removed from the Committee of the Budget and the Committee on Education.
The resolution ignited a media storm and divided the nation. Lawmakers clashed over whether Omar's actions reflected free speech or crossed the line into disloyalty. Her critics accused her of using her platform to undermine U.S. foreign policy, while her defenders framed the backlash as an attack on her background and identity. Television networks, social media, and commentators across the spectrum amplified the feud, turning it from a congressional debate into a nationwide conversation about patriotism, representation, and double standards. Republicans argued that Omar's repeated statements carried a treasonous tone, that they did not merely express opinions, but sought to influence U.S. policy in ways that favored foreign interests. They pointed to George Washington's farewell address, warning against divided loyalties and pretended patriotism. Linking Omar's remarks to that historical warning gave the movement moral gravity, framing her removal as a defense of the nation's founding ideals. For conservatives, the vote was more than political. It was symbolic. They said removing Omar restored dignity to the Foreign Affairs Committee and reaffirmed that America would not apologize for defending its values. To them, this was not silencing her voice, but setting boundaries between personal belief and public responsibility. Democrats countered there was political retaliation, warning that such actions could deepen divisions in Congress. Yet Republicans stood firm, insisting it was about accountability, not revenge. In the end, the vote represented something larger than one member's future. It signaled a turning point in how Congress defines loyalty and responsibility in an age of global scrutiny. Supporters called it a reassertion of American strength and moral clarity, a declaration that those who speak for the nation must also stand with it. For millions watching, the message was unmistakable. Defending America's credibility begins with defending its values at home.